The Democrats were in a panic. Riots sweeping across this country were hurting Joe Biden's polls. Donald Trump was improving and gaining ground in battleground states, and they had to do something. So Joe Biden finally came out of the basement. He flew to Kenosha. He made some statements, but too little too late, in my opinion. I don't think people actually thought Joe Biden was strong enough to do anything about the riots, and he was playing catch up with Trump. Trump went to Kenosha. Joe Biden said he wasn't going to do it, and then goes a day later. Nah, not good enough. Well, now there's good news for the Democrats. How convenient. The media has published a story, The Atlantic did, claiming that Donald Trump called people who died in war losers and suckers. And on the surface, this is clownish and insane. Come on. Donald Trump is a lot of things. He says a lot of stupid things. He insults a lot of people. But to brazenly just be like sitting there looking at a cemetery full of vets being like, what a bunch of losers. That's a caricature of Trump the left paints. They now believe their own fake news to the point where the collusion between the Democrats and the media to help prop up Biden is so insane. I gotta say, it's obvious. Let me just tell you, it goes well beyond Trump just claiming they're losers. Apparently, in this story, they claim Donald Trump asked who the good guys were in World War I and questioned why the U.S. would join the Allies. What? It is so insane, but it gets worse. Apparently, within 15 hours of this story dropping, a hit piece emerged with testimonials from Gold Star families saying, how dare you call vets losers, Donald Trump? Now, to me, that's shocking. They were able to put together testimonials and vet Gold Star families in 15 hours? Possible, but man, that seems rough. I personally don't think I could pull that off unless, of course, I was prepped in advance. But that seems to be the narrative emerging. Now, Joe Biden is giving a Q&A to the press, and sure enough, they didn't just, I love this critique, they didn't just set up the ball on, like a T-ball so that he could hit him out of the park. One commentator said they actually hit the ball out of the park for Biden and then just had him walk the bases. The people who were standing up to ask him questions asked him a whole bunch of anti-Trump questions and asked him things where they could give him a chance to prop himself up. There is no free press right now. I mean, there's some people. Obviously, I'm a member of the media myself, though I'm independent. But I was reticent to call this media collusion. I was going to be like, well, it's like they're being accused of collusion. We know that they colluded in the past, but this is so psychotic. When you read this story from The Atlantic, it reads like angry Trump derangement syndrome fan fiction, where they're like, the orange man was like, why would we fight with the allies? It's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Now, Trump does not get off clean here. He's now saying, I would never say this. I never called John McCain a loser. He called John McCain a loser. But listen, man. Donald Trump, I think he's kind of an a-hole. All right, I really do. And you know what? People have a right to vote for that if they want to vote for it. But I'll tell you what. I was talking to a friend earlier and I said, listen, man, I get it. Trump says dumb things all the time. But you know what's more worrying to me? What's worrying to me is the media colluding with Democrats and big tech to suppress the vote and prop themselves up. That to me is particularly scary. Because now we're hearing Mark Zuckerberg's intervening, and though he's trying to feign neutrality, he's intervening on behalf of the Democrats. So let's talk about this collusion and what it means for the rest of us. And might I add, a lot of this is just my personal opinion and speculation, but it really does seem like the media and the Democrats' collusion has become so just ridiculous. It's obvious, because I'll just throw it out there. When they're asking Biden questions, the first question asked came from an Atlantic reporter. I kid you not. I tell you, man, let's read this story. Before I get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are many ways you can give. There's a P.O. box if you want to send me some stuff. The best thing you can do, share this video. I don't have a big marketing department like The Atlantic or CNN or whoever else. I rely on word of mouth. If you think I'm doing a good job and what I say is important, consider sharing this video to help spread the word. And don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let's read the news. From The Atlantic, Trump, Americans who died in war are losers and suckers. The president has repeatedly disparaged the intelligence of service members and asked that wounded veterans be kept out of military parades, multiple sources tell The Atlantic. I'm sorry, man. This is just ridiculous. Ridiculous on its face. But it's actually already been debunked. No joke. There are actual journalists who have already put out information from FOIA requests proving this story is not real. And we'll go through this. Check this out. Here's what they write. When President Donald Trump canceled a visit to the Ain Marne American Cemetery near Paris in 2018, he blamed rain for the last-minute decision, saying that, quote, the helicopter couldn't fly and that the Secret Service wouldn't drive him there. Neither claim was true. I'm going to stop right there. Actually, that is true. 100% true. Jason Leopold from, I believe he's still with BuzzFeed, did a FOIA request and actually has the documents from the Navy saying straight up, because of the rain, the ceiling is going to be lowered. It's going to be very difficult to fly and it's dangerous. And they're going through back roads to get there. We don't think we can pull it off. It's that simple. And I'll show you the documents. But look at this. The Atlantic didn't even bother. They just say straight up, it's not true. But we have the documents. We literally have them. This is not journalism. Check it out. Trump rejected the idea of the visit because he feared his hair would become disheveled in the rain. And because he did not believe it important to honor American war dead, according to 4 people with firsthand knowledge of the decision of the discussion that day. In a conversation, okay, I'm going to stop right here and just say this. Right away, I'm like, come on. Trump is a lot of things, but he's not that stupid. He knows he needs to honor veterans. Donald Trump is the law and order president. And there it is. They are going after Trump with a vulnerability. Trump did call John McCain a loser. And he made disparaging comments about John McCain being captured. They knew it was a weak point, and they knew the idea existed in people already, and they could use this. And I'll be straight up. This is Trump's tactlessness, his, coming back to haunt him. But come on, man. If you believe this story, to quote Joe Biden, come on, man. I don't believe this is ridiculous because it gets even better. Just listen. When I read you these next couple of sentences, you're going to start laughing. Check it out. In a conversation with senior staff members on the morning of the scheduled visit, Trump said, quote, why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers. In a separate conversation on the same trip, Trump referred to the more than 1,800 Marines who lost their lives at Belleau Wood as suckers for getting killed. Belleau Wood is a consequential battle in American history, and the ground on which it was fought is venerated by the Marine Corps. America and its allies stopped the German advance toward Paris there in the spring of 1918. But Trump, on that same trip, asked aides, who were the good guys in this war? He also said that he didn't understand why the United States would intervene on the side of the Allies. What? Dude, this falls in line with the very fine people hoax. Come, you got to be kidding me with this article. At first, I heard the story and I was like, Trump does say dumb things, so maybe there's people, they're hamming it up. No, this is insane. There's no way Trump said, why would the U.S. join the Allies? That's just so ridiculous. Trump's understanding of concepts such as patriotism, service, and sacrifice has interested me since he expressed contempt for the late Senator John McCain. And there it is. They knew it was a weak point, and they are going for the jugular. And this might hurt Trump. I do believe so. But I don't care for these stupid games. I know what's up. The Democrats were in panic mode over the riots. We just had a far leftist, an extremist, gun down a Trump supporter right near his home. This was really bad. And the narrative has already shifted. You see, Joe Biden was on the defensive. He was playing counter to Donald Trump's message of law and order. They needed to get in front and change the news cycle, and boom, there it is. Right on cue, The Atlantic drops a story, but more impressively, they somehow managed to get a smear piece with 3 testimonials from Gold Star families, maybe even more, in like 15 hours. I am impressed. No, this is the rapid response from Democrats. I believe they knew this story was coming. They got tipped off, and they produced some smear pieces. Now, listen. The fact that he's going straight for questioning Trump's patriotism and claiming there's like another quote where apparently Trump said of the veterans, what was in it for them? I kid you not. That's a caricature of Donald Trump. It's written by Trump derangement syndrome people like fan fiction. Come on. Trump is a lot of things, and a lot of those things are bad, but this is so over the top. It's like a 7-year-old, and the Orange Man was like, veterans are losers. You could have done way better than this. All right, well, let's debunk this. Jason Leopold, straight up debunk. Regarding the lead of this story, I obtained documents from the Navy via FOIA about Trump's 2018 trip to Ain Marne, American cemetery near Paris, and the documents say his transport was canceled by the Navy due to rain. Boom. Fake news Atlantic. They claim that Trump didn't want to get his hair wet and said, I don't care about troops anyway. And here it is. Jason Leopold with the fact check. He's got the Department of the Navy document right here, and I believe there's another email. It's a little hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in on this. Apparently not. No, I can't. So that's kind of annoying. Let me try and read this. He says, speaking with WX at Belleau Wood, LZ, and in the rear, WX will not support today's flight. Please let me know if you need anything else from me. I will be the command pilot today and tonight. I mean, it's that simple. In the emails, they basically say that due to rain, it's going to lower the ceiling, I guess, like the amount of, like the height the helicopter can go or something. It's dangerous. They said visibility would be low and they would not be supporting this flight. Jason Leopold is a reporter. I briefly worked with him at Vice, I believe, and he's senior investigative reporter for BuzzFeed News. I appreciate the fact check. This story from the Atlantic, just it's a clear smear against the president. Now, of course, Joe Biden ended up giving this, Build Back Better speech addressing monthly employment numbers. This thing looks so coordinated. Let me tell you, man, they have become so desperate that it is becoming increasingly obvious what they're doing. Think about it. Joe Biden says, I'm going to finally come and give a statement to the press the day after this story drops. President of the United States should be presidential. Joe Biden tells Ed O'Keefe, explaining why he doesn't show more anger on the campaign trail. It's coordinated. And I mean, look, I'll tell you what, I said it over and over. If Donald Trump wasn't so bombastic, I'd be more supportive of him. Right now, I think the bigger issues are the riots, which I don't think they can get in control of. And I'm particularly offended by the notion that I have to support Biden, otherwise the riots will continue, as if the rioters are working for the Democrats. Oh, spare me, dude. You can't control these people. No, I want law and order. More importantly, the Democrats have embraced wholeheartedly far left identitarianism. So no support from me on that. But this is just so obvious what they're doing. Now, they're going after Trump in another way. Trump calling McCain a loser was a mistake. It was. He likes to play things up. He likes to talk big. Well, these things will come back to haunt him. They knew it was bad from when he did it. They exploited it. And now people already believed that it was possible that Trump would say this. In fact, I've asked some people, what do you think? And they said, well, he did call McCain a loser. So why wouldn't he call other people losers as well? He called McCain a loser because McCain lost in 2008, not because he got captured, though he did say, I prefer people who weren't captured. That's on Trump. Byron York with the tweet. Many of the questions for Joe Biden after his remarks today consisted of reporters asking Biden to elaborate on how bad Trump is. A list, not exact quotes. The first question, what does the Atlantic article tell you about Trump's soul and the life he leads? Oh, bravo. It was so wonderful. Emily Larson with the response saying the first question was from a staff writer for the Atlantic. They're not even teeing him up. They're walking the ball over to the end of the stand, chucking it over the side, yelling it was a home run, and letting Joe Biden feebly walk around the bases. That's what this is. Look at. They then ask him about QAnon and say Trump won't reject it. Trump mocked you for not wearing a mask. Have you been tested for COVID? Bill Barr said China poses the most aggressive threat to U.S. elections, more than Iran and Russia. Do you believe that? We haven't seen much of Harris in the campaign. Some of these are kind of, whatever, giving him a chance to answer things. Do you know when you'll have another COVID test? Here's one of my favorite things, though. Check this out. We know the president has been attacking mail-in voting. So has Russia. Are you concerned that this messaging may be working? On today's jobless report, you've acknowledged that less than half of the jobs lost in spring have recovered. What do the 1.4 million jobs gained in August say about the economy? Once again, countering the good news. They were expecting unemployment to be around like 10%. It dropped down to like 8.4? Something like that. So they're like, well, they're trying to highlight this. They aren't just asking Biden questions. They are making the points for him because this is what the media does for Joe. Joe can't articulate himself properly. When Joe speaks and he says, then the media finishes the quote for him. They cut out the ums and ahs and likes and oofs. They make his quotes sound like they're real statements. That's what they're doing right here. The last one was, would you support more Muslim countries normalizing relations with Israel, even though it might undermine Palestinian leverage for a two-state solution? And there it is. Donald Trump's historic, epic peace agreement between Israel and the Emirates being undermined, and that's their plan. They cannot give Trump one simple thing. I tell you, man. Well, you know what? Donald Trump deserves some of the, some of the attacks against him are Trump's own vulnerabilities. I got no problem saying the media is full of it, but hey, Trump's trying to, Trump is on the defensive now. I'll tell you what my advice would be to Trump. Don't get off message on the riots. We just had this extremist. That's what I care about. Okay. I don't believe for a second Donald Trump is going to go to a military cemetery and be like, what a bunch of losers. That's ridiculous. Over the top. They're pushing too hard. But I got to call out Trump on this one. Check it out. He said, also, I never called John a loser and swear on whatever or whoever I was asked to swear on. That I never called our great fallen soldiers anything other than heroes. This is more made up fake news given by disgusting and jealous failures in a disgraceful attempt to influence the election. Part of that is true, but Trump should have tweeted, it was a mistake to call John a loser. I was speaking about the election and perhaps upon self-reflection, I made that mistake, but I would never call our soldiers who gave their lives losers. I would only call them heroes. Well, in fact, Trump did call them losers. So we have this, there's a video right here. It's from C-SPAN. He does. In fact, Trump himself tweeted this story. It's from Trump's account. Quote, Donald Trump, John McCain is a loser. Trump should not have said that. But this shows us one thing. They're trying to push Trump off balance. And they got him a little bit. They did. Don't think you've got this one in the bag. There are dirty games afoot. This may be one of the most important elections in American history. Seriously. We're facing dangerous precedent. We've got social media manipulation. I got a lot to go through here. This might be a long video. But Trump did it, okay? You got to accept your faults. And if Trump did, he'd come out looking better for it. But I want to show you the reality of media. Matt Taibbi. Now, you want to talk about hitting something out of the park. Matt Taibbi does this. His articles are fantastic. And this guy does not like Donald Trump. In this article, the Trump era sucks and needs to end. He's very critical of Trump. And I think rightly so. But he also calls out the media for being, well, whatever the media is today. I'll tell you what, man. Before I read this, let me just say, I don't blame Trump for being Trump. I think Trump is a different kind of candidate. I think he's woken up a lot of people who normally don't vote. There's a lot of things I've been very critical of him over for a long time. It's why I've only recently said I will vote for him. And I made that clear earlier in the segment. But Donald Trump does Trump things. He's a person. He talks a certain way. He says things. You can call him out for it. But at the end of the day, he's just the dude. The media actively chooses to play these dirty games. Check this out. Matt Taibbi writes, American politics has become an interminable clash of off-putting pathologies. Call it the hydroxychloroquine effect. Trump one day in a press conference mutters that a drug has tremendous promise as a treatment of coronavirus. Within 10 seconds, a consensus forms that hydroxychloroquine is snake oil, and the New York Times is running stories denouncing Trump's brazen willingness to distort and outright defy expert opinion and scientific evidence when it does not suit his agenda. Then you read the story and find out doctors have been prescribing the drug that early reports from doctors in China and France have said that it seemed to help patients. And moreover, that the actual quote about it being a game changer from Trump included the lines, quote, maybe not, and what do I know? I'm not a doctor. In response to another Trump quote on the subject, what do you have to lose? Journalists piled on again, quoting the president of the American Medical Association to remind audiences you could lose your life, as if Trump had recommended that people run outside and mainline this stuff. Remember when they were like, Trump said to drink bleach? He never did that. It's just so dumb. Donald Trump said, it could be a game changer, maybe not. What do I know? I'm not a doctor. But they ignore that and then claim Trump is saying something. This is the dirty game of media. Trump says X, they say minus X. And then I come out and say, well, Trump was kind of dumb for saying X, but minus X is just not true. And here we go. This is the perfect example of it. I can say, well, look, there are some studies, Trump coming out and touting this is maybe a little bit over the top, but he's a guy with an opinion. Now, the media is lying here. This is amazing stuff from Taibbi. He says, Trump being Trump, he responded to this criticism by doubling down over and over, eventually retweeting a video boosting the drug by a doctor named Stella Emanuel. She turned out to believe that alien DNA had been used in medical treatments. Atheist doctors were working on a religion vaccine, and uterine endometriosis is caused by demon sperm. Asked about this misinformation, Trump somehow managed to include both a xenophobic put-down about the Nigerian doctor and a lie about his enthusiasm for her, saying, I don't know what country she comes from. I know nothing about her. All of which is insane. But so is rooting for a drug to not work in the middle of a historic pandemic. The clear subtext of nearly every news story on this topic dating back to March. Rule number 1 of the Trump era is that everything Trump touches quickly becomes as infamous as he is. Maybe not the biggest deal when talking about an obscure anti-malarial drug, but problematic when the subject is America itself. Trump's argument, they lie about me. He attracts so much negative attention and so completely dominates the culture that the line between him and the country that elected him becomes blurred, allowing him to make a secondary argument. They lie about you. This incantation works. The New York Times just ran a story about how chaos in Kenosha is already swaying some voters. That quoted John Garrity, a former Marine. Garrity's first vote was for Obama and called Trump's handling of coronavirus laughable, but still, quote, Mr. Garrity said he disliked how Mr. Trump talked, but said the Democratic Party's vision for governing seemed limited to attacking him and calling him a racist. A charge being leveled so constantly that it was having the effect of alienating instead of persuading people. And the idea that Democrats alone were morally pure on race annoyed him. Bravo, Matt. I love it. I've never been a big fan of Trump, but I will tell you this. Early on, Trump did things that were off-putting. I didn't like. Calling John McCain a loser. Look, I do not like John McCain. Warmonger, to say the least. But Trump was so brazen and brash and, and a lot of people felt that way. A lot of Trump supporters don't care, but I will tell you this. As of recent history, I think Trump has been improving his rhetoric. He's done a better and better job of toning down the things he says. He's now trying to walk these things back and do better. Certainly not perfect, by no means. But still, I think we're facing a serious crisis. I look to what the media is doing. I look to what the Democrats are doing and big tech. And I'll tell you, I find it freaky. Mark Zuckerberg warns to expect violence and civil unrest if election result is not immediately clear. As he says, Facebook is scrambling to stop the platform being used to spread disorder. Specifically, Zuckerberg says we're trying to make sure we do our part to make sure that none of this is organized on Facebook in reference to civil unrest. I think we need to be doing everything that we can to reduce the chances of violence in the wake of this election. They go on to mention, Zuckerberg said, Facebook and news organizations needed to start preparing the American people that there's nothing illegitimate about this election, even if it takes additional days or even weeks to make sure that all votes are counted. Yikes, man. That is already pushing the Democrat narrative. We know more mail-in votes means more inaccuracy, more potential for fraud. The New York Times reported this in 2012. Yet Facebook is clearly saying, no, it's going to be fine. So he's taken a side. If Trump says, and Bill Barr says, there's a potential for fraud, well, then that's their opinion. If the media and the Democrats say there isn't, okay, that's their opinion. Facebook just sided with the media and the Democrats. I hope you realize what comes next. Here we go. Facebook is paying people to shut down their accounts ahead of the election. It's part of Facebook's plan to research its role in elections. Really. I don't know who they're choosing to get rid of or whatever, but I'll tell you what, they've literally been asking people, how much money would it take for you to shut down your account? And they're asking people, they will pay you to close your account. Man, I'd almost be willing to say Facebook should just shut down for the duration of the election, but people run their businesses on Facebook, so that could be pretty devastating for the economy. But this is nuts, man. This is nuts. You know, I do think I should save a little bit of this for some further segments because otherwise we're going to run a little bit too long. But I got one more thing to show you. I think Facebook clearly is taking the left's side on this one. And that means we're facing something really dangerous. But I want to tell you something. The right seems to think they will win any civil war. And, you know, I just got to tell you, that's not true. They say, but we have the guns. They can't be. No, I'm sorry. Let me make something clear for you. I was watching a documentary. I'm sorry. It wasn't. It was not a documentary. It was a film about World War II. It was called The Resistance Banker. It's actually pretty good. It's about a Dutch banker in occupied Netherlands who helps fund the resistance. I wondered why it is that so few German soldiers were able to occupy the Netherlands and keep all of these Dutch people under their boot. It's because the Dutch people couldn't organize properly. They struggled. And that's the gist of the movie, The Resistance Banker. He was struggling to find a way to organize and administrate funding for resistance. It was very difficult. He got caught and he lost his life. Dude's a hero. It's amazing stuff. If come November, Facebook starts banning individuals who are posting about the illegitimacy of mail-in voting, then there will be no conversation. There will be no communication. There will be no organizing. Like Paterson, New Jersey, I think it's extremely likely, just going to happen, or almost guaranteed, that we will see widespread inaccuracies and fraud. To what degree is widespread, I don't know, but enough. Because even 1% is enough to call the election into question, right? Especially considering Trump won some swing states by only fractions of a vote. I'm sorry, fractions of percentage. What happens if a bunch of lawsuits emerge and then you on Facebook say, this isn't right, something is wrong? Banned. That's what Mark Zuckerberg said. They're going to shut you down. They're going to start preparing everybody to know that everything will be okay, even if we don't know who our president is for weeks. For weeks, we won't know who our president is? Are you nuts? Mark Zuckerberg telling you what's about to come. And then I saw this story. Mail-in ballots were subject to fraud in Baltimore during the Civil War. Oh, spare me. You know what? We're living in a clown show. It's a game, isn't it? LeBron James wearing a vote or die shirt, like the episode of South Park. Trump is being accused now of calling dead veterans losers. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. You know what, man? Apparently, there's going to be some Antifa thing in like Fredericksburg, Virginia. Next thing you're going to tell me, there's going to be a battle at Gettysburg and Harper's Ferry. Oh, geez, man. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll tell you what. I hope you've been taking care of yourselves and preparing and just, being happy. Because at a certain point, the absurdity of all of this just makes me laugh. I don't know what to expect. I'm going to try and just keep a smile on my face, wake up and say, you know what? The sun is shining. The flowers are blooming. Well, it's almost fall. The trees are, the leaves are falling. But you know what? It's still nice, right? I'm going to go enjoy the weather and nature. Because who knows what any of this is. No matter how bad it gets, I hope you realize you got one life to live and you keep an optimistic view of things. Because it might get bad. But hey, you still got your health. And I think whatever happens, we're going to be all right. I just don't know who our president is going to be. So whatever. I'll see y'all in the next segment coming up at 6 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastNews. Thanks for hanging out. And I will see you all then.